Hey Raj, yet another episode. I can't believe we're flying through them. I think this is episode 10 or 11 now. We're just kind of flying through them. And I mean, we're obviously Gen AI, business strategy, creativity, all that kind of thing. And I'm quite excited to dive into today's topic, which is how Gen AI is shaping business strategy. So I'm excited to pick your brain as the owner and founder of a company in terms of how you're using Gen AI to kind of reshape the way business operates and how we're interacting with customers and that kind of thing. So, yeah, I don't know if you want to maybe lay the foundation with a quick overview of Gen AI's significance in the business world, how it's being used as a strategic asset.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the first thing I want to say is what is Gen AI? So these are new tools and software which are using AI technology as part of their offering. That's the way I look at Gen AI. And in many ways, this is an evolution of data analysis. So there was a bit of like calculus used in the past, and then became like big data, data analysis, and the data forms, and now it's coming into AI, and in many ways it's the evolution of it. What's different is that this analysis now is done by a tool which it has similar behaviors to human brain, so you can't really figure out what's going on, but it gives you responses based on it's trained by material. It will actually give answers to different challenges. It could be as fun as the next DJ song you should be playing in a club. Spotify is working on that with OpenAI, for instance, right through to very complicated, complex algorithms which have been worked by Bain, for example, using OpenAI. So you can use, uh, you know, AI the way you want to use it, a bit like how we use a brain. You can use it for great stuff, evil stuff. You can use it for education. You can use it for, you can use it for navigating a city. That's how I relate Gen AI with human brains and human behavior.
Yeah, yeah. So, how maybe let's start at the beginning. Like, how in terms of the AI, how is Gen AI basically being used for business strategy? Is it kind of just spotting trends and patterns? I know there's a kind of predictive element as well to it. You can generate stats that don't exist based on the stats that you've got to kind of inform where the market might be heading and that kind of thing. How are people currently using Gen AI inside of their business strategy?
Yeah. So there are multiple ways. One thing you already mentioned is like generative AI. So you can use it to generate different elements. Today, it's been used at scale for generating images. There are multiple tools that we can use. DALI 3, I believe now is one of the top tools for generating images. Then there is generating audio, for example. So 11 Labs, I would say, is a great tool. You can actually input your own audio, generate audio from it. And then there's Whisper, which can actually listen to your conversation and transcribe it. For instance, I find it way better than what Google and Amazon ever had. So, much, much better than that. Then there is AI analytics. You actually use AI to predict and spot trends and analyze them and put them on a graph so you can understand what's going on, or analyze data and give you responses. But all in all, the idea is that AI can take where you are today with the information you have and fill in the gaps for you, take you to the next level with it. So whether you're using it for Canva to make new designs, or whether you're using OpenAI to do some maths for you, for example, all these examples of where AI can use is train training to be a better assistant to human beings in the form of analysis, of generating content, and then is helping overall to get things done faster and better.
Yeah. So, How do businesses need to adapt to effectively leverage the benefits of generative AI? And maybe, I don't know if you want to keep it broad, maybe strategy as well as content, or kind of just narrow down on the strategy side. But there's obviously changes, and we've been going through this kind of digital transformation for a good, I suppose, decade, if not more, already. But now with the launch or the advent of Gen AI, it just seems to have kind of triggered this avalanche of everyone's trying to jump on the bandwagon. But just because you're adopting something doesn't mean it's necessarily going to contribute to your bottom line. So what do you need to kind of figure out first as a business before you just start adapting Gen AI or AI in general, to actually benefit from it?
Yeah, great question. I would say the first thing is strategy. A lot of people forget that, like, the first thing, any business, any process we ever adapt in a company, we should have a strategy for it. Our company's strategy is AI first. So we always use AI to help us where it can and make our work more effective, more efficient. For example, just to give you a quick idea, the quality of emails written by the team now is just skyrocketed, for example. It's just become so much better than it used to be, for example. Only because, we're all using AI right now to kind of help summarize emails and write better emails, for example. That's one. Number two is understanding and training the team. A lot of times we are not training the teams to actually use these tools uh, better. So, for example, I'm creating YouTube videos which we share with the team constantly so that they can learn how to use AI, how to prompt better, what tools are there in the market, for instance. All this is primarily driven to help our team members and then the larger community when they use AI as well.
Mm,
Number three, to provide tools. So for our core team members in Goodman Lantern, we actually provide paid accounts for tools, and we give them the opportunity to look at new ways we can use AI in our business. Again, it's about encouragement. So keeping it very broad here, but really helping to formulate a AI strategy in the company is really important. A lot of times
mm.
people forget that if you don't have a strategy, if you don't crack the task, don't measure it, it'll never get done.
Yeah, yeah. No, what can't be measured can't be tested, or whatever the saying is. There's something
Yes,
about
yeah,
measure, test and measure.
yeah.
So, what are the key factors businesses should consider when looking at integrating AI tech into their operations?
So I would say the first step is to understand what is the use case for AI. And that simply means that firstly understanding what AI can do for your business. AI can help every business, any business today, because there are multiple facets of AI, whether it's finances, whether it's content, whether it is branding. So these all, whether it's coding, which is a big part, it can do some great stuff in medical sciences, for example, finding trends. There's a lot of different areas of where it can help. The first step really to understand what AI can do for you. And then implementation wise, it comes down to where's the need? Where are the challenges right now? I think because we are so used to doing things in a particular way, because we're difficult to see outside what's available. So many times when I was telling you about earlier that transcription of audio and video used to be a manual job till about last year. And this year, that role is completely gone. People who did transcription as their day job, gone. Finding trends on Google Maps, gone. Like all these things are kind of going away. And so we will see that happening quite a bit. It's about saying what the lowest hanging fruit, for example. So for instance, if people are investing in like image generation, for example, or getting artists to design their stuff, can they use, for instance, tools which are out there to actually do that for you? And if so, what do you need for that? Maybe you need like a prompt, for example. Maybe you just need to kind of create something very simple using the API to just generate images for you all the time. In my new
Mm,
company, I've saved myself $45,000 on branding and content strategy just based on this. So that strategy came from real human beings, but then to implement some of that strategy around the design, especially on the images, I would generate like 10,000 images. I did that through the AI tools, and voila, it just kind of saved us a lot of cash.
Now, obviously, let's look at the two kind of spectrum, the ends of the spectrum, should I say. There's the fast adopters and the very slow adopters. And I think most people at the moment are kind of in that kind of middle section of the bell curve, but
Mm.
there's still the outliers on both ends. So, what advice would you give to businesses that are hesitant about embracing Gen AI?
I believe the biggest challenge here is, well, we are talking about AI, experts are talking about AI, people who are doing research are talking about AI, maybe people investing in AI tech are talking about AI. There are a large section of people who know that AI exists. They have heard about it in the news, for example, have read about it, but not implementing it because they feel like it's not there yet. They tried something, didn't work out for them. Advice to everybody is to really look at AI regularly. The changes it's making in weeks, it's far greater than the changes which were happening in years, maybe a couple decades back. So, for example, let's look at BlackBerry. They will launch a change after every year, or even iPhone, like one new model per year. Here, if you look at OpenAI, in like 11 months, they have launched 3 or 4 different versions of their tool, each one far, far better than the previous version. And suddenly, I was getting a little bit hesitant about OpenAI, but suddenly after the latest launch of their GPT-4 Turbo, I feel there's going to be a huge change coming with the new Model 5 when they launch that. So, I mean, you can't predict at the moment how much it'll impact, but it'll make a big change. And I think the only way to kind of really be using it properly is to keep tabs of what's going on. And if you can't keep tabs of it, check out a YouTube video. I think that's a nice little plug there for
Yeah.
your YouTube channel.
Um, no, definitely, it's your podcast, so plug away. I was actually chatting to someone the other day about model decay, and how it's impacting the outputs in terms of the training of the AI, because obviously it's scraping stuff off the internet to train. The internet has now been flooded by terrible AI generated content, and that's now being fed back into it. And there's this kind of theory that AI is getting dumber. And,
Mm.
I was having this conversation with another content producer, and she's like, I knew that AI was just a trend and it was not going to last. And this is now just proving my point. But I don't think that that's the case. I think that people that are not adopting AI now, or are very slow to adopt and adapt to including it in their process, are definitely going to be left behind. That kind of tail end of the bell curve, they risk actually just getting chopped off from from the end of the graph. I think that there's a danger in not adopting some sort of Gen AI approach or incorporation into your process.
Absolutely. And now I'm going to talk about something very geeky for a second, but I think it's going to give you an example of what's going on in the market. So a few weeks back, I was doing an experimentation to figure out the next generation of ChatGPT tool, OpenAI tools. And I was trying to compare it with Anthropic. And Anthropic has a very big input memory. So when you can enter like a novel in, and it will remember that and then analyze that novel for you very quickly. Whereas, for example, OpenAI, till about recently, had only about 4,000 tokens, something like that. So it can only take in like maybe 10 pages, for instance, maximum. And now they just launched a complete new model, which should take 128,000. That's 30x more than its previous model. To achieve
Mm,
that, they must have trained it again. And not only trained again, but they also found that they can make it cheaper than the Ford model. So the 4 model is more expensive than the 4X model
sure. Yeah.
or 4 Turbo model. So these guys have a huge ammunition. They have a lot of cash to burn, and they're not stopping at any point because there are people coming in. I mean, obviously, Elon Musk he launched his X.ai recently. Then there's money been put into Anthropic, for example, by Amazon and Google. And there are other tools coming up as well. So there's a lot of cash put into this. And it's an arms race, basically. Who can build the fastest AI and the more powerful AI? So watch the space. This is evolving so fast. I mean, I spend a lot of time talking about this, looking at this stuff, and I can't keep tabs with everything that's going on in the market today. So yeah, it's a very, I mean, predicting what's going to happen next is really hard because my prediction was that they will continue in the same four model on OpenAI, but they didn't do that. They built a brand new way, brand new training, and they've done this new turbo, which is far superior. So yeah.
Yeah. So picking up on that, let's look at the other end of the spectrum. The very early adopters and the people that take the risk with new technologies before they've been proven. So how can companies ensure they stay ahead of the curve when they're adopting Gen AI technologies?
Well, if the company is adopting this to empower their own company, that's phenomenal. I say go and do that. That's exactly what you should be using it for. So, if, for example, using it to write emails, for instance, or summarize emails for you, or summarize videos for you, create images for you, that's great. But if you're building tools to compete with or complement OpenAI, my thinking is be very careful. Let me give you an example. There's to be tools like Jasper were built on ChatGPT. They're out of business. They didn't go out of business, but they are slowing down quite a bit. Then the tools which are actually built like this thing where you can build a chatbot by training using a PDF. I can train it, and you can use ChatGPT interface or ChatGPT's API. The new version of OpenAI killed that business model completely. So at scale, OpenAI is killing businesses using their own tools or their own APIs. So it's really hard to predict what's going to happen next. What they're going to launch next. There's a talk of like they're launching an audio version of OpenAI, which is basically, it can do much more audio work than it's doing right now. There's talk about doing video generation using OpenAI. Again, I don't know what they're working on right now. It's really hard to say. But as you progress in the next 10 years, 30 years, as I mentioned before, the rapid changes, and all these bits are adding to it, and the growth is exponential. It's not linear for sure, it's exponential. So expect big changes happening and the big launches happening every quarter, for instance, at least.
Yeah. Awesome. So the 60-second takeaway, if we go back and think about business strategy and using AI, what would your 60-second takeaway be for this episode?
My takeaway would be that the only way to keep tabs of AI is to actually use it. Explore the tools. This is not a fad. This is here to stay. It's not a cryptocurrency. It's going to stay. It's going to be part of our lives. Whether we like it or not, it will take away jobs, unfortunately. But as individuals, our role is to adopt it, skill ourselves, reskill ourselves, how to use these tools better. That includes prompting and QA, knowing what's happening in the market, keeping a sort of a tab on what's happening, what's been launched, for instance. And as I mentioned before, if you don't know what's going on, feel free to check out the YouTube video, Goodman Lantern. There's a lot of channel has a lot of different ideas there for you. My final comment over here is because AI is there, just implementing some parts of it won't help business. A strategy is very important. So start with a strategy on what you want to do in your company. What's going to be a strategy for AI? What will be your tact on it? Only then implement it. Because that way you will see a better ROI and there'll be more clarity in your team as well.
Yeah. Very sage advice, and as usual, an enlightening conversation. Thank you, Raj. To the listeners, don't forget to subscribe. If you felt value in this, please share it with those you think will benefit from it. And until next time, we'll see you again on the Goodman podcast.
See you then.